Picture a country that, just over a century ago, was carved up by foreign powers, weakened by internal collapse, and widely seen as a fallen giant. Now picture that same country as a manufacturing engine, a space power, and a central player in nearly every major global decision. China's rise did not happen in a straight line. It happened in 5 turning points that changed not only China, but the world. At the start of the 20th century, China was still ruled by the Qing dynasty, but the system was unraveling. Foreign invasions, unequal treaties, and domestic unrest had exposed how vulnerable the empire was. The 1911 revolution ended more than 2,000 years of imperial rule. Why does this matter? Because the collapse of the old order created a vacuum. Once the imperial system fell, the central question became, who could build a modern China? That question shaped the next 100 years of politics, war, and reform. After decades of civil war and Japanese invasion, the Communist Party won in 1949 and Mao Zedong announced the People's Republic of China. This was not just a change of government. It was a total reset of the state. The new government unified the country, redistributed land, expanded literacy, and built a highly centralized system. The mechanism behind the transformation was simple but powerful. When a state can mobilize resources at scale, it can rebuild faster than fragmented systems. That centralization came with enormous costs, but it also created the administrative foundation for later growth. This is the turning point that changed everything. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping launched market reforms. China did not become capitalist overnight, but it introduced market incentives, special economic zones, and foreign investment. The mechanism here was brilliant. Instead of trying to modernize all at once, China opened selected areas first. Cities like Shenzhen became laboratories. Factories moved in, jobs exploded, and know-how flowed from abroad to domestic firms. If you want a concrete example of why this mattered, look at electronics. Global companies brought production to China, and over time Chinese firms learned how to make, then design, then dominate parts of the supply chain. When China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, it entered the global economy on a new level. Exports surged, coastal cities boomed. Hundreds of millions of people moved from rural life into industrial jobs. What made this so powerful was scale. China combined low-cost labor, massive infrastructure building, and deep integration into world trade. The result was what economists call the world's factory. If you bought a phone, a laptop, a toy, or clothing in the 2000s and 2010s, there is a good chance China was somewhere in that supply chain. The final turning point is China's shift from catching up to competing at the frontier. It invested heavily in high-speed rail, telecom, artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and space exploration. At the same time, it became more assertive on the world stage. This matters because China is no longer just important for what it makes. It is important for how it shapes the future. The technologies we use, the energy transition, the trade routes, and the balance of power between major nations. So China's rise from 1900 to today can be understood through 5 turning points. The fall of empire, the founding of the People's Republic of China, the reforms of 1978, WTO entry, and the move into global competition. Each step changed the mechanism of power, from survival to state building to market-driven growth to global integration to strategic influence. And that's what makes China's story so fascinating. It is not just the story of one country rising. It is the story of how the modern world itself was remade. China's rise from 1900 to today. 5 turning points that changed the world is just one small part of China's rise in the 1900s to today. If you are interested, our full free China's Rise in the 1900s to Today course is linked in the description.